It's 6 days to the presidential election in Sierra Leone as all attention now shifts to June 24. Hello to you here in Dakar, Banjul, Lofa County in Liberia, Accra, Abuja, Freetown, Monrovia, Nairobi, and our friends across the world. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this week's edition of your news and current affairs program, Weekly Top News, where we examine developing stories and news from a different angle, and it's coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and online at wadr.org. Don't forget you can listen to previous editions of this program online at wadr.org, AudioMark or SoundCloud. I am Imo Edat, your anchor, and for the next hour, we'll be looking at news stories and developments across the sub-region. Well, let's begin the show as we welcome James Ejepon to bring a summary of some of the top stories and reports that made headlines during the week under review. Hello, James, and welcome to the program.
Hello, Imo, and thank you for having me, and hello to you out there. For our review this week, we start in Senegal. Here, Pastef, a member of the opposition political coalition, Yewwi Askanwi, denied sending an emissary to the presidency. The party of convicted opposition leader Ousmane Sonko, in a statement over the weekend, reiterated that no mediation talk has commenced, neither was any party delegate dispatched to meet with President Macky Sall. The report was put together by Abdoulaye Hassan.
The African Patriots of Senegal for Work, Ethics and Fraternity, PASTEF, in the statement stated its current position on the boycott of the national dialogue even after the sentencing of Ousmane Sonko to 2 years in prison. The statement reads that no emissary has been sent to the regime and that no mediation has been initiated. PASTEF's denial, according to reports, follows the publication of press articles informing that a Senegalese businessman had sought to mediate in the face-off. The mediator in question is Pierre Goudiaby Atepa, president of the Senegalese Investors Club, an architect by profession, and former advisor to former President Abdoulaye Wade. RFI cited an anonymous source within the Senegalese presidency who confirmed that Goudiaby Atepa visited President Sall last Thursday and declared himself to be the bearer of a message from Sonko. According to the same source, no fewer than 20 people were present at the time, but the Senegalese head of state paid no heed to the guest. The question remains whether the business tycoon had gone on his will or truly went to Sall on behalf of Ousmane Sonko. What is, however, clear at the moment is PASTEF's denial of sending any mediator to the government house. Nearly 2 weeks after the deadly violence that resulted in 16 deaths, according to the government, economic activities, vehicular traffic, and general calm have since returned to Dakar and its environs.
So that was Abdoulaye Hassan reporting there. During the week, we had great stories from Sierra Leone. But let's take this one, which captured the atmosphere of tension as the population grapples with apprehension over a call for protest on June 12 and 13th by a Sierra Leonean resident in the Netherlands, Abdul Will Kamara, who is affectionately known as Ade Bayo. These protests are aimed at expressing discontent with the procedures leading up to the public elections scheduled for June 24th. Now, Freetown correspondent Patrick Salia reported that security operatives already on high alert, determined to prevent a recurrence of previous incidents that resulted in significant damage to both lives and properties. Here is the story.
Similar calls through audio podcasts virally on social media by the same Abdul Will Kamara is popular, especially among opposition supporters and sympathizers and among people who are disgruntled about the current governance regime. It is a similar call and pattern that led to, among other incidents, the August 10 insurrection across major towns and cities, the riot at Tombo, a fishing community on the outskirts of Freetown in May 2020 that resulted to the deaths of at least 2 people and burning down of offices and houses. A riot in the northern capital Makeni late in August 2020 over the transfer of a generator that puts the city's residents under siege for days and brought businesses to a standstill.
They are actually taking a toll on the security of the country because people are afraid, not because they want to adhere to their calls, but they are afraid that they might come and do bad things unto them. And we are concerned. But because we will not want to be taken aback based on the lessons that we learned in August 10, we have adequately prepared to provide the much needed security.
That was Abdul Karim Will, spokesman for the Office of National Security ONS, the body that coordinates the country's security sector. On Monday, 12th June, people were left stranded for public transport to their workplaces, schools and businesses. Vice Chairman for the Traders Council, Vandi Lansana, said they cannot quantify the losses each time there are such insecurities that disrupt businesses.
It's only when they come out for the day, they will sell and earn their living, take home to feed their families. And I cannot quantify exactly what are the losses.
Nationwide, the West African Senior School Certificate Examination WASC is underway. Parents of primary and secondary school children were left with no option but to stop their kids from attending school, even though some are on their final examination for this academic year.
Let's go to Liberia, where the country's Electoral Commission officially initiated a week-long exhibition of the provisional voter registration roll in preparation for the upcoming elections scheduled for October 10th, 2023. Now, the exercise, which started on Tuesday, took place across all registration centers nationwide. Our Monrovia correspondent, Darlington Popper, followed and filed a report.
According to Deviata Branlasana, the Commission's chairperson, the exhibition process aims to enable registered voters to verify their information as recorded by staff of the National Elections Commission (NEC) during the biometric voter registration. Lasana emphasized the importance of the general public raising any concerns that they may have during the exhibition exercise. She highlighted that the provisional voter roll is available for verification, inclusion, and objection.
The purpose of the exhibition is to give registrants the opportunity to reaffirm their registration details and request corrections where necessary. Registrants appearing at the exhibition centers will be informed about the next procedure regarding their enquiries. The exhibition process is also intended for Liberians to vet the provisional roll and, where necessary, object with proof to persons they believe are ineligible to be on the voters' roll.
That's the much we can take on the review of developing stories this week, and it's back to you.
Thank you, James, for those reviews of stories and reports that made headlines during the week on the review. Well, let's make room now for some discussions.
Don't go anywhere. Weekly Top News will be right back. And we're back. Weekly Top News.
A week from now, and precisely on June 24, 2023, 3.3 million Sierra Leoneans will head to the polls to vote for a new president. Well, let's tell you that this will be the fifth election since the brutal 10-year civil war, and it is expected to follow the peaceful and somewhat democratic nature of its four predecessors. Two familiar candidates are competing to lead this country of 8.4 million people. The incumbent President Julius Maada Bio of the Sierra Leone's People's Party is seeking re-election and has promised to prioritize improving access to public education and boosting agricultural production. Samora Kamara of the All People's Congress and the runner-up in the last presidential election of 2018 is the other candidate for the nation's top role. And also a third first of the People's Movement for Democratic Change, lawyer Charles Francis Magai. With these three going head-on, there is certainly a score to settle. However, not with some criticism on the part of the opposition berating the government for stifling their campaigns. There have also been accusations by the opposition and alleged plans by the government to compromise the outcome of the elections with the borrowed ballot boxes from Guinea. Just on Wednesday, dozens of young people were arrested across Sierra Leone following street protests against the Bio-led SLPP government. Many of those arrested were badly beaten by the army and police, who were seen on video kicking and punching unarmed protesters. Also, opposition parties are calling for the sack of the Chief Electoral Commissioner Mohamed Kone, who recently came under serious abuse on social media for his poor management of the electoral process, which many, including the main opposition's APC and PMDC, have described as unconstitutional. I must say a lot has been happening in Sierra Leone the past weeks, but let's take an analytical look at all of these disturbing issues with election just next weekend. What are the chances for the re-election of President Bio? The die has been cast. My guests for these panel discussions are lawyer Charles Francis Magai, presidential candidate, People's Movement for Democratic Change, PMDC, Mohammed Kamara, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress APC, and Imran Silla, Campaign Media Manager of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party SLPP. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Kamara. What is your reason calling for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner?
Well, Kingsley, if you listen to our leader, if you listen to his press statement, we haven't called for the resignation of the ECSL boss yet. We made demands, and that if those demands are not met, that will not hesitate to kindly ask for his resignation. And those demands are: one, we need a forensic audit of the electoral system. Also, the publication of the voter register, the disaggregated voter register, which is yet to be published, and a host of other demands that we made, especially the way and the manner the ECSL has comported itself. So those are some of the demands that we made, that within 72 hours, if they are not met, I think it is but prudent that the ECSL boss is not fit to conduct free, credible, and fair elections.
Issue with the electoral register, like you mentioned, is it a general issue or is just an issue that has been pointed out by your party?
It's a general issue, but there is only one party that is okay with it, because they are working in unison with ECSL. So when opposition parties that are serious are crying for it, the other party that is very comfortable with the operations of ECSL, which is the SLPP, they are okay. So it's a general concern.
Let me come to you now, Mr. Imran. I mean, you've heard Mr. Kamara's response. How would the government respond to this? How would your party, which he says is okay with the register, respond to this?
So, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. Have maintained some consistency with regards to our reaction to a press statement issued out by the APC. We feel it is outlandish, far-fetched, and inconceivable at this material point in time. And I think it does seem to be, from his initial statement, the APC representative does seem to be doubling down. Because what they have is an ultimatum, 72 hours for the NEC boss to resign. And he has yesterday responded accordingly, saying that him and his commissioners are going nowhere, and that as a matter of fact, elections have already started. Let us not forget that consistent with the provisions of the Elections Act, early vote has started for pilgrims who should be departing the shores of Freetown on Saturday for Mecca, Saudi Arabia. And so they were ordered the opportunity to cast their ballot before they leave. And interestingly enough, one of the issues raised by the All People's Congress, the fact that they were unaware that voting was going to take place today for those Hajj pilgrims. Now, interestingly enough, when it happened yesterday, beg your pardon. So when the NEC boss was responding, he said, all political parties have their representatives at the various locations where the Hajj pilgrims were actually voting. And that includes, so it defeats some of the intent of their press release, suggesting that we're not informed, they knew nothing about early voting, but somehow their agents ended up showing up to be part of the exercise. Funny. Second, we have requested for the NEC boss to resign. We're talking about 9 days to an election, the general election. The alternative for them is that there should be some international experts coming in to run an election for us 9 days to an election. But then it begs so many questions rather than provide answers or solutions to what is considered to be problems and issues. Number one, international experts, how do you put them together? Where do they come from? Can they get an elections done in 9 days, or would that ultimately mean that elections are going to be deferred for another? Is actually what they have been talking about loudly, and that's on the streets all over. Number one. Second, what would that say about the Constitution of the Republic of Sierra Leone? Because whatever those are, every single commissioner had to go to Parliament, and the Parliament is bipartisan. Yeah, you have APC members of Parliament, you have C4C members of Parliament, you have NGC members of Parliament, you have SLPP members of Parliament. In addition to which, you have traditional leaders referred to as paramount chiefs, who have a place in the well of Parliament and are allowed to vote and be part of those political discussions. Unanimously, and the majority required for things to go through. They all voted, and Connor, the NEC boss, ECSL boss, and the other commissioners were up. So what does it say? And even if you were to, for some reason, say you want to bring parliamentarians back, for what reason? Some of those who were in the last parliament have not been granted symbol by their political parties. So who are you calling back? For what reason and for what?
Mr. Imran, let me hold your thought there, please. Lawyer Magai, please. I will soon come to you, but I just want these issues to be clear. Mr. Kamara, let me come to you. Calling for giving an ultimatum to the EC's removal and all about the voter register within this few days. How feasible is this?
I think Imran Sina, who is now spokes or any individual interpreting, it is either Imran Sina or any individual interpreting appears to lead for him is having problems with comprehension. Like I stated earlier, our demands are very clear. That if those demands are not met within 72 hours, it is very easy. ECSL, you conducted you developed the voter register. All we need is give us the disaggregated voter register. Then no problem. Allow us to audit the system. Where does we are the card prepared? Where are the voter slip prepared? These are the questions that we gave ultimatum for that within 72 hours. Not for the ECSL boss to register within 74 hours.
Mr. Kamara, Mr. Kamara, yes. I am asking, what happens at the expiration of your ultimatum? Because election is on Saturday, and how feasible is this?
Yes, never mind that. We have the numerical strength, you understand, to call for the citizens of this country not to participate, to null any form of election. But we don't want to get there. We don't want to reach at that particular point in time. That's why we did have demand very clear. But ECSL boss, you continue your job. All we want, give us the disaggregated voter register. Make sure we see this. Let us know where this is happening. Let us know when this is happening. Let us know how this happened. Those are the questions that we have. And as I'm talking to you, ECSL boss is talking to us. The ECSL boss is complying. You understand? As I'm speaking to you, our members are here. You understand? And he has complied 70%. So if he is complying within 72 hours, there is no reason for us to request or for us to demand for investigation. If only it does not comply, then we will demand for his resignation. So comprehension is key in this particular discussion, that our demands are not that the ECSL board should resign with immediate effect, but based on if our demands are not met, then we are going to demand a investigation. This is exactly where our pinpoint is.
Okay, let me head to Lawyer Magai. Thank you, sir, for your patience and for staying online. Well, help us do an assessment of your stake and the PMDCs in this election, meaning what are your chances winning local council seats, parliamentary, mayoral, and council chairpersons, and the presidency itself?
Thank you very much. As Mr. Kamara rightly stated, we in the opposition are very concerned about the conduct of the process so far. There is no gainsay that the commission is empowered to conduct general elections, referenda, etc., etc. But then there should be fairness in the process. It seems to me that thus far Commission has failed to be very, very impartial in the sense that with regard to PMDC, we were deprived of nominating in 8 districts out of the 16 districts, 8 districts out of the 18 districts, considering that the election under the district proportional representation, which itself is very questionable, with the greatest respect to the Supreme Court judges. I say so because if you have read Section 38A of the Constitution, which amended Section 38, 2 conditions each must be present for the invocation of a PR system. We resorted to the PR system in 1996 and 2002 because of the war situation then, which is not the position now. And you invoke Section 38A, where a date has been fixed for the elections, which of course had been fixed, that's the 24th of June, all irregularly, and I'll tell you why later on. And secondly, there should not be in existence the limited constituency. Now, if we did not have the limited constituencies, there would not have been members of parliament. So it means that only the first limb was satisfied, the second limb was not, and therefore we could not legitimately invoke Section 38A, which empowers us to have recourse to proportional representation. Now, I say that the date fixed, that is the 24th, is not because statutes are meant to be complied with.
Yeah.
If you look at Section 57 of the Public Elections Act, number 17 of 2020, it states clearly that elections shall be held on the first Saturday of November after the expiration of the tenure of members of parliament, meaning after parliament has prorogued. Now, this is a statutory requirement, and ECSL is a creature of statute. And if they wanted to move from that date, which is enshrined in Section 57, as I have read, it should have gone back to Parliament to amend that section, which they did not do. And failing to do so calls into question the legitimacy of holding the elections on the 24th of June, 2023.
Are you saying? Yeah.
I will leave the Supreme Court when I'm arguing the application before them to make a pronouncement.
Well, let me go to Mr. Silla. How will all of this impact the elections on Saturday? I mean, you've heard lawyer Magai with what he's saying and what Mr. Kamara is also saying. How would this impact Saturday?
Can I just say that the elections are about 9 days away, and I have had lawyer Francis Magai in reference to certain sections of the Constitution with regard to elections, whether be it through what obtained before or proportional representation, which he has indicated has happened once. And that same Constitution does not make specific reference to us saying it only has to be in a conflict situation where we would refer to a proportional representation to be done in an election. Yeah. Having said that, I think one of the conundrums of the legal profession is this. Lawyer Francis Magai has expressed his opinion. You may talk to, I can give you 10 lawyers, equally of the status of Lawyer Francis Magai, who would have different interpretation. But like he said, it was put to the test at the courts, and there was a ruling on it. So therefore, we need to respect the sanctity of the judicial system in their ruling, right, as to what was objected to at that point in time, and hence we have a proportional representation. Now, look, long and short of it is this. I understand and I know the political parties have not done the full complement with regards to parliamentarians, councillors, mayors, district chairmen, and the rest. Simply because there is a law now in place which guarantees some gender representation. Don't forget that His Excellency the President signed into law 30%, for women to occupy positions, right? And that includes political parties. And so the system that the Electoral Commission set up, we actually had to go back and forth on that a bit, right? If you do two nominations and the third has to be a woman, somehow, if that's not done in the appropriate way, the system rejects it. And what the ECSL chairman was saying yesterday, because I watched him on an hour-long interview, he said that he has given some time to those political parties to make sure that they comply. Otherwise, in that particular district, they will not be allowed, right, to fill in candidates because they have not respected the laws of the land with regards to gender equality. Now, look, we know that there has been a John committee set up by ECSL at the start of the exercise, which is to encourage political parties to have that interaction, right, regularly, to raise concerns and issues. And that is what the committee is there for, to make sure that those issues are addressed and resolved. That has been ongoing for some time now. And that will continue to be the case until elections and in post-elections. So, very more, and it's not a novelty. For every election, the Electoral Commission has a liaison committee for political parties to engage and interact, because it is for them that an election is going to be conducted, and therefore their input, their concerns, the issues would come up naturally, and they would be looked into and addressed. Now, the APC is talking about disaggregated data. Here's the point. There's a Data Protection Act, right, which we have to have regard for. I have a voter ID card, and in addition to that, when I get to the polling station, every political who would be having their polling agents at those various locations would have the electoral register to validate and check, because they'll be doing the job alongside the ECSL staff to make sure that those who vote legitimately have an ID card, are actually on the electoral register, right, and are allowed to vote. In cases where it is not inconceivable that someone may have lost their ID card, if you show up, someone needs to validate. They would go through the register again. If your name is there, there's a thumbprint that you'd have to, we're all required to do at voter registration, right, which validates the fact that you, and then you'll be allowed to vote. So look, I think it is much to do about nothing. This issue raised for me points to one single fact, particularly that they are ill-prepared. They have allowed their parties to be hijacked by a certain individual who sits in Holland and does the agenda setting for them. Whatever they do here, right, would have been issued by an individual called Adebayo in Holland. He tells them what to do, what action to take, and what not to do. And so it is not a political party that exists on its own. But let me give you a quote. This is from their former interim leader. He's called Alfred Peter Conte. He sent out a tweet a few days ago and said, this election, the results are clear. That their party, his party, the APC, has failed to plan. And that simply because they have failed to plan. Don't forget that the context is this. For the first time since the introduction of multi-party politics, and lawyer Francis Magai can attest to this, for the first time since the introduction of multi-party politics, a date for elections was announced a year, 2 months to the date. We have never had that situation before. Back in 2018, it took civil society organizations, human rights organizations, political parties, international observers, international organizations to pile pressure on the APC government then, just to give us a date for elections. And they were finally coerced to giving us a date for elections, and we went into those elections and won those elections. They appointed an electoral commissioner who oversaw those elections, and we won because we knew, right, whatever those contentions were, we were sure of the vote. We knew we were going to win, and we were vindicated by the results of those elections in 2018. So here's my point. We know we have an election in 9 days. Raising up issues that could otherwise have been dealt with at the liaison committee level with the ECSL, right? It's not as if the doors have been shut. There's an open door policy. Those meetings continue to happen. Kamara just said there's a meeting ongoing right now as we speak. And the ECSL chairman did say yesterday in an interview that register will be provided. Now, if they're asking for just a normal register, that is something we're all entitled to. But if you're looking for a register, say, for example, that has an address, that has a name, that has a phone number, and all the rest of it, that is something that is beyond, right? And this is something as a party we would contest to.
Let me hold your thought, Mr. Imran, and go to Lawyer Magai. Sir, don't you think it may take some time? Even election is on Saturday, and these issues are being raised, and there's a court session. How is this going to pull out or play out before the election? Do you intend to get a positive response before the elections? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, before I come to that, let me just say that I have tremendous respect for the integrity, ability, articulative qualities of Imran. But I am addressing specialized issues. I would have preferred if you had brought someone who is a lawyer and would better understand the issue. Like I said, Alpacan some years back, you cannot sit in your backyard and become a lawyer. You have to go and train, come back, do pupillage, and then get experience. What I'm talking about is this. The ground norm as set out in the Public Elections Act have to be satisfied before we go to the issues being addressed by Imran. Imran is talking about procedure, etc., etc. That is secondary. I.e., I don't know whether he has seen the motion I filed in the Supreme Court. We are basically challenging the competency of the Electoral Commissioner. That is to say, within the ambit of the law, to wit, Section 32, subsection 3 and 4, and Section 75C of the Constitution, Kone is not qualified to hold that position. With regard to subsection 3, Mr. President ought to have conferred with the leaders of registered political parties, which he did not do. And his attention was brought to that lapse. He did not correct it. Rather reprehensibly, Parliament went on to approve the appointment of Kone. This was not without rancor. In fact, his approval was 60% approved, 40% opposed it. Now, Section 32, subsection 4, A and B are saying that before you appointed a commissioner of the Electoral Commission, you should be eligible to be elected a member of Parliament. Now, the question of eligibility and legibility is dealt with under Section 75 and 76 of the Constitution. Section 75 is the qualification section and 76 the disqualification section. Under 75C, Kone should have been at the time of his appointment a registered voter, which he was not, because at the time they did the voter registration at that time, Kone was out of the jurisdiction. And secondly, Kone definitely is not competent to hold that position, as has been shown by his incompetence in doing things which do not gear towards a free and fair election. I say so because I wrote letters to him and I copied the international community that I was surprised that as presidential candidate for PMDC, I was never allotted campaign dates. I mean, if I'm not allotted campaign dates, then how do you expect me to go and talk to voters to vote for me and win over their votes or otherwise? And in the 16 electoral districts, we were deprived of nominating in 8 of those. All of that is contained in the application before the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So how are we going to say that these elections are free and fair? And as to the timing of my application, I have exhibited a series of letters addressed to One, calling upon him to do the right thing, which he has blatantly refused to do. So I had no option but to go to the Supreme Court.
Okay, Barrister Magai, before you came back on, we were speaking with Mr. Mohammed Kamara as regards the alleged loan ballot boxes from Guinea, and he was making some point. So you are going to respond to that also, and then I would like him to finish on that. Mr. Kamara, please go ahead.
Yes, so like the ballot box should be the answer to the people's choice, but not expecting ballot boxes loaned from a junta regime. We are not expecting this ballot boxes to be loaned from a junta regime. At least Sierra Leone, at least we have enough, at least to cater for ourselves in terms of the production of ballot boxes. On worst case scenario, we should have contacted our development partners rather than loaning from a junta regime, stating that we want to promote what we refer to as democracy. I think this is a slap in the integrity of Sierra Leoneans, and also it's an insult into the democracy which Sierra Leoneans have long been waiting for. We keep saying that it is quite obvious that the PCSL have something up their sleeves, because at this not being so, they have no reason going to Guinea, a state that does not represent democracy, a state that does not know what democracy is, a state that does not comply within the confines of democracy, to get boxes to promote democracy. Like I said, it's a slap to democracy itself. I listened to Imran Kingsley, and I was expecting Imran to go up a bit, for him to look at a political party like APC, to say someone is remoting our party. It simply means it's a lack of information, it's a lack of message. He does not have something important to say to the people of this country. And he, trust me, he will not mention or reflect the APC to someone in Holland. But
is there any link between the APC and the Adebayo in Holland, like Imran mentioned? Is there any connection?
Sorry, it's a moderate.
Because of their failed attempt to govern well, that is exactly why they are linking the APC to Adebayo in Holland. As a party, we've done the needful, disassociating ourselves from Adebayo, and Adebayo himself have also disassociated himself from the APC. And as for us, because we have better things to discuss and we have better things to tell our people, because we have information for them, we will not concentrate on the Adebayo.
Okay.
But because they don't have a thing that they will tell the people that this is exactly what we've done for you, because they don't have anything to highlight that this is what we've done for you. The only thing good they have done for Sierra Leoneans is for those who are alive, that are alive. For those who hunger and starvation have not carried to their business.
Yes.
That's the only thing they have done.
Let me hold your thought there.
Let them take the need.
All right.
Let him the question being posed to him by you.
Your point is well noted. Let me hold your thought there. Mr. Imran, please, I will bring you in.
Thank you very much. I was smiling a bit hearing my brother Kamara making these remarks, and I'd like to, I said earlier that lawyer Francis Magai, if I were to see him face to face, I wouldn't be calling him lawyer Francis Magai. But for the purpose of interview, I have to. I refer to him as an uncle. And he has shown a certain discipline, right, and decorum that I would expect my uncle to show in these conversations, right?
Yeah.
It's about issues. It's about what is germane to national development. It's about also having respect and regard for your. But then when I talk, I like to show some respect not only for the audience and those I'm having a conversation with, but it depicts my leader, President Julius Maada Bio, as to what he would like me to do, the way he would like me to carry myself. And so vulgarity would never be part of me. It's not even in our DNA, as a matter of fact. But let me come to more germane issues, right? Now, I think we need to look forward, right? Focus on what the solutions are. I have mentioned Adebayo, and for very good reasons. If you were following up, or you can go Google and see, you would see pictures of Adebayo and the presidential candidate of the APC, Dr. Samuel Kamara. You will see photos of Adebayo, right, at APC meetings in the UK. You will see photos of Adebayo at APC meetings in Germany, right? That says a lot about the individual. And don't forget, all we get from him, right, and that's the reason why we believe, in our press statement, it was covered sufficiently. We believe that the agenda setting of the APC is being determined by Adebayo. And I'll give you an example. They talk about ID cards, yeah? Voter ID cards and whatever the issues are. When Dr. Samuel Kamara went to collect his voter ID, and that is public knowledge, it's all over social media, he did say, this ID card is about the best I have seen. In his own words, quote unquote, it's about the best I have seen. In fact, this ID card is better than the ones we issued out in 2018 with their own electoral. He said in 2018, he registered in his hometown called Kamalo, and somehow his name and ID card ended up in the western area, Brookfields. So in a far-flung place in the north where he registered, his name appeared in Western Auburn, in the central part of Brookfields. He said, so, and this ID card looks good. Lo and behold, Adebayo had an alternative view, and shortly after, APC and Dr. Samuel Kamara chose that alternative view from Adebayo as their position, with the exception of the motherly infectives and all the rest that we know Adebayo for, and that Adebayo has got quite a reputation for. Now, with regards to ECSL, I do not hold any brief for them, like the lawyers would say. I do not represent the ECSL. What I'm saying and what I keep saying is out of experience, because our party, like every other political party, is part of that liaison committee meetings. So we live in real time. We have those experiences, we have those interactions. We see other political parties having those interactions. We see those issues being raised and issues being resolved, right? And we move forward. And so if I'm asked about what the concerns are that APC have raised, naturally, I would look to my experience and what I see around the table, right, when we're having those conversations. There is a reason, and this is my final point. There is a reason why I have chosen not to go into the legalities, right, of what lawyer Francis Magai is bringing up. That is because those are matters before the court. There's a Latin word that I don't know. I think it's sub judice or something. I hope that's right. Right? Yeah. I'm learning a bit now from my uncle. It's a matter before the court. I don't know. I don't want to do trial by public, right, for a matter that is before the court. There's a competent judge in a competent jurisdiction that would give those rulings like they did with regards to proportional representation or going back to the old system. And once that is done, like in every other country, if you look at the United Kingdom, once the court has given a verdict, yeah, and you challenge it to the highest level, and that objection is being nullified and not granted, then you have no choice but to respect it. You may not necessarily agree with it. You may still be. You may still want to hold on to your own views and what you think. But bottom line is, right, there's a ruling on the matter. People have to respect rulings of courts and move on from that point. So that's the reason why I don't like looking back. Love to look forward. Let us see, how we can go into those elections. Ultimately, if you're prepared for an election, it's about making sure that you get your people out to vote, making sure that you protect the votes, making sure that results turn out. Yeah, we record an experience of doing just that, and that is what we would like to focus on. So even as I speak, my presidential candidate, Brigadier Julius Madabian, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, was in Kenema. He should be on his way to Kono. There was a campaign timetable that was issued out on the 23rd of May by the Electoral Commission, and we have respected that. We are crisscrossing, right, like never before, from end to end, from north to northwest, to south to east, to far-flung village communities, to spread the message, right, and to let people understand what we have done for 5 years on education, on maternal mortality, on infant mortality, on immunization, on infrastructure, on energy, on healthcare generally, right, and on the trajectory, what we would like to do for a second term, what President Biya would like to do. He keeps talking about agriculture. It's included in the manifesto. For our manifesto says consolidating the gains, the gains we've made in 5 years. We're consolidating the gains while we look to break new grounds in agriculture and in other areas.
Mr. Imran, can you tell us? I'm really concerned about your response concerning the ballot boxes Mr. Kamara was talking about. Is there anything of that nature?
So again, let me set the context and give the backdrop to this. When we were doing ECSL, not ECSL, Statistics Sierra Leone rather, was doing the census. We had notepads from Kenya, Ghana supported us in some ways. There's always these, Pope doesn't know, he needs to learn a bit more about, let me not say, he doesn't know, that's not respectful enough. He needs to learn a bit more about bilateral relations and the way the international community works, and how nations deal with other nations. So in the sub-region, you have ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. You have the Mano River Union, that is Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Liberia. You have AU, the African Union, Union. So there are those organizations and institutions for which we as nation states sign up to. And in addition to that, we have those bilaterals with nation states in the continent, in ECOWAS, and in the sub-region. And we always go back and forth between states, right, for support, assistance, and all the rest of it. And ballot boxes are in Guinea. Those are just ballot boxes. At every step of the way, right, with the Electoral Commission, we have a representative. Political parties have their representative to validate, to check. So when the ballot boxes are coming in, there would be political party representation. When the ballot papers come in, as in 2018, we sent our representative there at the airport to make sure the boxes were checked, make sure they were sealed, and all the rest of it. We gave our representative to bring those boxes across, and they were brought into to the headquarters and distributed, and our representatives were there every step of the way. So instead of the APC moaning about things, crying foul, crying babies, talking about irrelevant things and trivialities, let them focus on the end game. This is politics. It's about the ground game at this point. Getting out there, monitoring the process.
Very well, Mr. Imran. Very well, Mr. Imran. Lawyer Magai, let me come to you, sir. What is your party's relationship with the APC for this year's election, looking at the antecedent?
Thank you very much. As you may recall, in 2007, PMDC was the kingmaker. In the runoff, we gave total support to APC and contributed towards them gaining governance. In 2018, we gave light support to SLPP. That cannot be denied. In 2023, I have examined the performance of both, and I have convinced myself that this time round, we should not be kingmaker, but we should be the king, because the people of this nation are suffering. Now, to answer your question, we have an alliance of about 7 registered political parties, including APC, and in the runoff, although we maintain our individualism, in the runoff, if there is runoff between SLPP and APC, we shall give our unflinching support to APC. If there is a runoff between PMDC and SLPP, that support will swing over to PMDC. And in the event of a runoff between APC and PMDC, we shall not go into a runoff. We shall go instead into a power sharing arrangement or agreement, meaning APC will govern for 2.5 years and I shall take over thereafter.
Very well. it looks very well spaced out on paper, sir. But how feasible is this, Mr. Imran? How feasible is this?
Well, Imran is the right person to ask. Ask me. Imran does not know much about that arrangement.
Okay, back to you, lawyer, my guy. How feasible is this?
Not always, sometimes, not always. Please. I mean, let me say this to you. The battle is pitched in the southeast, where SLP and PMDC claim dominance. There is no denial that APC has dominance in the entire northern region. There is no denial that APC has an edge over all other parties in the western area. Now, in the southeast, the battle is between PMDC and SLPP. And if Madabio has done what is expected of him, if I were him, I'll be lying in my bed, relaxing, not traversing. Because, I mean, as the king said, Creole, good player, not a fit for best. Ask the people, was yesterday better than today or vice versa? How much were we paying for a cup of rice? A bottle of palm oil, a bag of rice? What was the exchange rate? The answer speaks for itself. Ocular demonstration needs no further proof. I have only moved once out of Freetown during this whole process. That was when I went to Bangbatuk to introduce my daughter and the rest of the candidates in the Moyamba district. I have not moved out, but I'm reaching out to my people. I feel sorry for Madabio. He is not as young as he thinks. If he has done very well, let him go and relax, as I'm doing. I sleep very well, I snore. I'm not exhausting myself because I know that it is a matter of time for me to ascend the presidency. And that is imminent.
Okay. Well, Mr. Imran, as we drive home this conversation, a few days ago, there were protests by some youth, in the country against the government of SLPP. And we saw in videos, even here in Senegal, we had comment from Sierra Leoneans who have been following that issue from here. And the comment weren't that pleasant because of, the gory visuals, army arresting young people, brutalizing them and all of that. Tell us, what was that all about? Was it the grievance of the people about the ruling party, or they're not doing what they're supposed to do? Let's have your thoughts on that.
Nothing to do with what you're suggesting. Let me say that there has been a consistent pattern over time by the APC through their surrogate. I'd like to call him the leader of the APC, Adebayo, because he actually sets the stage, right, and does what you call agenda setting for the APC. The APC doesn't take a step without listening to Adebayo. Now, I'll give you an example. When they had their press conference a couple of days ago, I'm sure you know Umar Fofana. He's the BBC journalist.
Yeah.
He was called by the publicity secretary of the APC, who formally invited him to their press conference at the New Brookfield Hotel. And so based on that invitation, he went there. But there was an audio from Adebayo the day before the press conference, right, making a lot of statements about what they intend to do and the fact that they're going to bring total chaos and bring instability and cause insecurities in this country, which was what essentially Dr. Samuel Kamara spoke to, right, giving 72 hours ultimatum, but stopping short of saying what they would do after. He wasn't clear because Adebayo did not give those instructions, and so he needed to bid his time. But what happened to Umar Fofana? Because Adebayo had cursed him in the audio before, in the audio the day before the press conference, Umar Fofana went there, right, sat through the press conference. On his way out, those same invectives that Adebayo threw at him in an audio were the same invectives that the rank and file membership threw at Umar Fofana, to the point that he was almost beaten up, verbally abused, and all the rest, to the point that LAJ, the Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, I'm sure you have seen the press release, issued out a press release condemning that act, asking the APC leader to come out categorically and condemn and investigate. They have not said a word since. So to your question, I have just set the context of what we're seeing consistently is deliberate actions and statements from the APC to cause dastardly acts, right, to the peace and stability of this country. What happened a few days ago was started by Adebayo, right, and actualized or attempt to actualize it by the rank and file membership of the APC, talking about so many issues leading up to the election. Now, here's my point. And this is what I believe.
Okay.
The APC know they do not have a chance in this election. They do not have issues to raise. They don't have a manifesto. I like to refer to their manifesto as a stamp paper that was replicated. They took it from somewhere and they have not talked to those issues. Nothing to do about national development. The only party in these elections that has a real manifesto, that has plans for the future, that has something to show in terms of tangible. I mean, my uncle was talking about the economy. In Canada, before COVID, a bag of rice was about $30. After COVID, it's now $50. Ghana had to go to the IMF for $3 billion. Kenya stated that it didn't have money to pay civil servants, and it takes every 2 to 3 months before a backlog of 1 or 2 is being cleared. All around the world, the real global challenges as a result of COVID, but now the crisis. Inflation is at the highest in the United States for 40 years. In the UK, inflation is up, right? Sierra Leone has been able to do things, right? We have been able to invest in infrastructure. We have been able to commit 22% on education, right? We have been able to commit money, from 6 to 12% on healthcare. That is why maternal mortality is down by 60%. That is why infant mortality is down by 60%. That is why immunization is up by 80%. And look at the MCC scorecard. Year on year, we are rated highly. We're on the verge of signing an MCC compact in a second term of President. It says a lot about how much we have done for the people of it.
Well, let me allow Mr. Kamara to respond. Mr. Kamara, respond to these. Adebayo instigating the violence which we saw a couple of days ago in Freetown.
I think we should not pay lip service to democracy. And that is exactly what SLPP is good at. That is exactly what Imran is good at. Let me bow in respect to the advice given by legal Charles Magai. And in doing so, I think democracy is about taking civil authority to the people. But the unfortunate part of it is that we have a system in this country that appears to be civil, but they are not civil. So it is difficult for us to replicate same. And I will tell you that the misery and suffering we have endured in the last 5 years know no boundaries. These people have pushed Sierra Leoneans too far. And that is exactly why we are now sending the message to them that enough is enough. Enough of the harassment, enough of the sufferation, enough of everything. So that is exactly why we just want to give them exactly what they deserve. Had they had governors well, trust me, the people should have complimented them in an easy manner.
All right, let's leave it at that. Your final say, Lawyer Magai, before we go on the show. What's your last word? What are we expecting on Saturday? Are we expecting you to top the result?
On my side, but I'm not sure whether the elections will proceed on Saturday for very many reasons.
Why, sir?
But as politicians, we should be well guarded. We should not be making pregnant statements, and we should not reveal too many information, the element of surprise. I'm not convinced that this election will go on the 24th.
People would like to know why you're pessimistic about June 24.
I'm pessimistic for reasons which I will not disclose at the moment. One of the reasons is obvious to the nation, that we have filed papers challenging the competency of the PCS effort, and also the date of the elections as being irregular. I mean, take for example, yesterday, the purported elections by the pilgrims. We were told that the ballot papers arrived the previous day. Is ECSL saying to me that all of the pilgrims were assembled in one location for them to vote? How did they distribute the ballot boxes? Nothing was posted as required by the Public Elections Act to demonstrate the voters who come within the ambit of the pilgrims. So these are the lapses I am looking at.
Thank you so much. It's been very interesting conversation. I hope we will meet again after the elections to analyze the pros and cons and see how the entire thing plays out. Thank you so much. Lawyer Magai, thank you so much, sir, and I wish you all the best. Those were my guests. Presidential candidates for People's Movement for Democratic Change PMDC, Lawyer Charles Francis Magai, Mohammed Kamara, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the All People's Congress APC, and Imran Silla, Campaign Media Manager of the ruling Sierra Leone People's Party SLPP. You can listen to this interview on our website wadr.org, also on AudioMac and SoundCloud. We would love to hear from you on any of these stories. Send us an email to wadr@wadl.org. You can also check out our YouTube videos and join us in the Twitter conversation at WADR News. And that's how we wrap things off on this edition of Weekly Top News on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. Do join us next week as we will open the studios for Sierra Leone Decides 2023 starting at 7 a.m. I am Imo Edit, and do have a pleasant weekend.